Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 49, Knorr von Rosenroth. Book 7, Some Christian Students of the Kabbala from the Doctrine and Literature of the Kabbala by Arthur Edward Waite. 12. Knorr von Rosenroth. From the occult standpoint, it is perhaps more interesting to ascertain the motives which led the editor of the Kabbala Denudata to the consideration of Jewish theosophy than those of any other student of the subject. To Christian Knorr von Rosenroth, the occultist owes nearly all his knowledge of the Zohar, for the bibliographical writers who preceded him give only meagre notices of the Kabalistic magnum opus, and it is not even mentioned by Mirandola, Agrippa, or Postal. Now, Rosenroth occupies a somewhat curious position, which occultists for the most part have failed to remark because they know very little about their chief illuminator in the mysticism of Israel. I propose to show that he was actuated by the same missionary enthusiasm which characterized all the Christian neophytes who preceded him. But I shall begin by enumerating one or two points which indicate that he had occult connections. Born in the year 1636, a German noble bearing the title of Baron, he appears on the scene of history shortly after public curiosity had died out on the subject of the Rosicrucian mystery. Joachim Junger, Johann Valentin Andreae, and Egidius Guthmann, three persons to whom rival theories have attributed the invention of that mystery, were still alive. Robert Flood, the English apologist of the fraternity, was on the threshold of death, but had not yet passed away. Thomas Vaughan was a schoolboy. Irenaeus Philalethes had just written his Introitus Apertus to show the adepts of alchemy that he was their brother and their peer. Sendivogius had exhausted his projecting powder and was living in seclusion, an aged man on the frontiers of Silesia. John Baptist van Helmont, who long before had testified that he had seen and touched the philosopher's stone of a color like saffron in powder, but heavy and shining like pounded glass, had christened his son Mercurius, and Mercurius van Helmont, the contemporary and friend of Rosenroth, divided his laborious existence between a tireless search after the secret of transmuting metals and the study of the Kabbala. Rosenroth, Kabbalist like Helmont, was, like Helmont, probably a chemist, and on the crowded title page of his great work we find it described as Scriptum omnibus philologis philosophis theologis omnium religionum atque philochemicis quam utilissimum. The justification is that the loci communes Kabbalistici include a compendium libri Kabbalistico chemici aeschmeseref dicti de lapide philosophico. I have had occasion in the 6th book to give some account of this curious treatise. We have reason, therefore, to suppose that Rosenroth was infected with the alchemical zeal of his friend, the second generation of an alchemical family. We may suspect, however, that he was more mystic than hermetist. We are told that he loved meditating on the Holy Scriptures and that he knew them by heart. Like his countryman Kunrath, he was a Lutheran, and Eliphas Levi would have said of him, as of the author of the Amphitheatrum, herein he was a German of his period, rather than a mystic citizen of the eternal kingdom. In matters of religion, his peculiar bent is determined by the fact that he wrote an explanation of the Apocalypse, about which I will forbear from wearying my readers. More to our purpose is a dialogue on evangelical history in which a Kabbalistic catechumen proposes questions on the 4 Gospels and a Christian replies. With this also we may connect a treatise entitled Messias Purus, in which the life of Jesus Christ from his conception to his baptism is explained according to the doctrines of the Kabbala. In a word, the motto of his correspondent Henry Moore was that also of Rosenroth. May the glory of our God and his Christ be the end of all our writings. In conformity with this, he begins his enumeration of the reasons which justify the appearance of a Latin version of the Zohar by affirming that at a period when the divisions of Christendom are traceable to diversity of philosophical opinions and metaphysical definitions, it must be important to investigate a philosophical system which flourished during the age of Christ and his apostles, and from which fountain the sacred oracles have themselves drawn largely. In the preface to the translation of the Zohar, he expressly founds his opinion that Kabbalistic dogmas may be of divine revelation on the ground of their sanctity and sublimity, as well as their great use in explaining the books of the Old and New Testaments. He also notes that, unlike the later Jewish writings, The Zohar does not contain a single utterance against Christ. Finally, after enumerating 24 reasons why the Jews should enjoy toleration at Christian hands, he mentions the chief things which will assist their conversion. They include, of course, the ordinary commonplaces of piety and the ordinary devices of proselytism, but there is stress laid upon the promotion of the study of Hebrew and Chaldaic, and on the translation of the New Testament into those languages. The disquisition is conventional enough, but it is important because it indicates, firstly, the project which was ever near to the heart of Rosenroth, and secondly, how little he dreamed either of an esoteric Christianity or of a withdrawn wisdom religion, how little he looked to find in Kabbalistic doctrine a deeper sense of Christian doctrines, or indeed anything but their consecration in the eyes of Jewry by demonstrating that they were to be found in the Zohar. He did not wish the Christian to become a Kabbalist, but he longed very much for the Kabbalistic Jew to become a Lutheran. He is said to have endured great sacrifices, outside the vast labor involved, over the publication of the Kabbala Denudata, but there is no need to add that it entirely missed its aim. It has enabled a few students to get a confused notion of the Zohar, and it has in this way done immense service to occultists. It is outside probability that it ever brought a single Jew into the Church of Christ. And as Rosenroth failed in his public aim, so at the close of his life he had the misfortune to see his daughter depart from the Reformed religion and embrace, under the influence of her husband, the faith of the Catholic Church. Taken altogether, the story of Christian Rosenroth has a touch of heroism and tragedy, and with all its faults, his gift to scholarship is one of permanent value. And it is, I think, a useful task to indicate the circumstances under which he gave it, and the motives by which he was prompted. I should add that over the antiquity of Kabbalistic doctrine and literature, he was by no means credulous for his period, seeming indeed to admit that there may have been an admixture of late material with the ancient fragments of the Zohar. He evidently regarded the Book of Concealment as the oldest and most important of its treatises, and this is the only one which he was inclined to ascribe to the direct authorship of R. Simeon ben Yochai. Of the rest, some may have been the work of R. Abba, and some of the school which succeeded these masters. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.